welcome. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. Hello, boys and girls. How are you? This is Alejandro Castillo broadcasting from the largest city in the world, Mexico City. Today is Thursday, June the 25th. And this is the show number 59. I'm very pleased, very honored to welcome today a person who I call the Jedi Master of Volleyball. you will know why that, but well, he's a mastermind of worldwide volleyball, not just USA volleyball, and well, he's the former sport development director for USA Volleyball for the last 30 or 35 years. I don't know why. I don't know how much exactly, but well, I'm very honored to welcome today Mr. John Kessel, a very, very, very good friend. And it's an honor to have you here, John. Welcome. How's everything in the lodge in Colorado?
Well, it's pretty hot down in lower Denver or lower Colorado, but up here at 9,000 feet, 3,000 meters, it stays pretty cool and beautiful. And we're in the middle of a beautiful wild forest on all four sides, and we have 20 teepees and half a dozen cabins and a big lodge. And I was driving our ATV Razor, our Polaris Razor, today, and probably hit about 60 miles an hour. And it was like, yeah, this is fun.
Well, yes, I can imagine. You have tell me a lot of that place, the lodge, and hope you can share something of that amazing place. But well, again, it's a pleasure to have you here. I admire you a lot. You're a mastermind of volleyball, of world volleyball, and thanks a lot for me here. And of course, looking forward to have you here next year in Mexico, in Querétaro, for the seminar. Well, for the people who doesn't know, John, he speaks a little Spanish because I think your wife speaks Spanish, right? I don't know if it's Mexican.
He came from Cuba.
Ah, from Cuba, okay. And have you learned a little Spanish, right?
Well, both my children and I took Spanish a lot in school, and I do work in Norseca, so sometimes it's better to do part of it in Spanish. It just depends on how well most of the language is on the court. This will be a little weird because we're going to just do talking and slides and can give you some links, but volleyball is played in more countries around the world than any other sport, even than football. Soccer is played in 219 nations and volleyball's in 221. So they've got a pretty worldwide sport. Everybody is thinking about right now.
Yes, and as I know, FIVB is the organization that has the more countries affiliated, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right, John. Tell us, please, a little more about that amazing place, the lodge, the Bison Lodge in Colorado.
Yeah, it's on Facebook and it's on the internet. You can go to bisonpeaklodgecolorado.com. It's what I call a legacy project. My wife and I have been working for 40, 50 years, and we figured we'd buy this property and be able to do retreats and healing for veterans and first responders, especially now with the COVID causing a lot of stress. And we looked for about 10 years, and we found it about 2 years ago, and we've been working on it ever since. And now that I'm no longer with USA Volleyball, I am with World ParaVolley, and I am still doing FIVB work, but and I'm doing USA Volleyball work. I mean, I have to be honest. So I'm going to do coaching accreditation and still work on the manuals. And it's just that I'm not a staff member as of Thursday, along with 30 other or 29 other of my fellow staff members. About half of our staff got let go.
Yeah, well, that's sad news for all the people, but especially you. Kirk Ostermar also was laid off from USA Volleyball. But I'm pretty sure that we will be here. We have a lot to hear about John Kessel in the future about volleyball, because you are a philosopher and a very enthusiastic person about volleyball.
And Doug Beal has been up here to the lodge half a dozen times because he loves it up here. But we're looking forward to coming to Mexico City area, next July, since we couldn't do it this year.
Yes, I hope so. That for next July, I think it's July 9, 10, and 11 next year. But yeah, it would be a pleasure to have you here. Jose Nunez, the head coach or the head of volleyball program in Querétaro, has joined us in Facebook. So yes, it would be a pleasure to have you here, because well, this year due to coronavirus, has been suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, John, please tell us a little more about your beginnings in volleyball, where you started almost, I don't know, 45, 50 years ago. How was your beginnings in volleyball? It was a casualty, or it was a question, a matter of destiny? How was that the beginnings?
The beginning is because my father, after World War II, started to play doubles volleyball. So in 1948, I have a picture of him playing 2-on-2 volleyball. And then I have a picture of me on the same volleyball court when I'm like 10 years old. So volleyball has been in my life almost all my life that I can think of. Now, that said, it wasn't until I went to college when I decided to start coaching. And I went to college in 1970 at Colorado College in the state of Colorado, where I still live 50 years later. And I started the men's program in 1971, 71, and I was asked by one of the girls from Kansas named Marla Borowski. I'll never forget. She said, "Can you do the women's team too?" And I said, "Sure." And that was 50 years ago. What I did consciously after I played over in Italy professionally, I played with the Denver Comets in the IBA, trained with them. I loved playing, but I started doing some volleyball camps where we worked very intensely. And by intensely, I mean, we would do 3 sessions a day. And then on the last day, we'd get a 24-hour break. And what did that mean? It meant the last day you did a morning and an afternoon session. And at 2 o'clock, you got 24 hours off, because 2 o'clock the next day in the afternoon, you started testing, and then you did a training session that night. So the days off, you only did 2 sessions. Every other day you were doing 3 sessions. And it was like a really neat laboratory to keep pushing and learning faster. And right after a session, that we get together and go, how can we make it better? What worked well? What's going on? And that's where I saw that if I can help the 30 coaches that would come to a coaching clinic there, and I would do a clinic for them, if I could help those 30 coaches, well, that meant I was probably helping 300 players, maybe even 1,000 players that year with these coaches that were a little bit better. And the next year, I could help more coaches. And so rather than go the collegiate route of wonderful people that I respect and admire, Terry Pettit at University of Nebraska, Russ Rose at Penn State, and even on the national team level, I chose to coach coaches primarily. So like when I was in Sydney in 2000, my job was to be the team leader. I helped the 4 coaches that were coaching the 4 teams, one of which won the gold medal. In the Pan Am Games, I was the head coach for beach. But I also did a lot of high performance coaching 6-on-6. Yet all of that, you guys, my passionate area to help the most is around 13 or 14-year-old athletes. Why? To give them a love of the game so that they play it for a lifetime and not to give up on it. In fact, in my presentations for clinics and when I come to Mexico, I will challenge the coaches that I respect people who have great winning records, but my record is 10,000 wins approximately and 35 losses, just 35. How is that possible? It's because about 35 kids quit volleyball the year after I coached them. That is my loss. And I would challenge your listeners to judge themselves, even if they go 0-30 in a season, maybe a high school season, and every kid wants to play volleyball the next year, you're a really good coach. Versus coaches who win games and they're 25-5 or whatever, and half the kids quit volleyball the next year because of their experience. That's not good coaching. And so the line is to never be a child's last coach. And I'm okay with a kid who says, I really like volleyball, but I love basketball more. Okay, they're not giving up on it. They're just choosing a sport they love even more. Go off to basketball. A lot of coaches in America will say, that coach, that program stole my player. And I go, guy, if that player chose a different sport, do you know that we've got like 30 million kids in the United States, or 40 million or whatever, and only about 3 million do organized sports, or some number 6 million. It varies between people researches. Well, go find the other 24 million, the other 34 million kids that aren't doing sport. Don't say, oh, he stole my athlete. Just go find one of the 24 million that aren't doing soccer or aren't doing volleyball. Just go find them and bring them in. Don't worry about who you lost. So it's just a different way, I guess, of looking at it, because I know that in every match ever played, we joke, and I'll probably do this in Mexico in the clinic, we joke about the research of the FIVB. In 1995, that was the 100-year anniversary of our sport. We were 100 years old. And I pretend that we did a research project with the FIVB, and we studied every match ever played and everything that we could find from 1895 to 1995. And one big number showed up, one big number. In the maybe billion matches played over those 100 years in all the countries, whether it's recreational, school, or Olympics, and all those matches played, one number was really big. And that number is 50%. And that number is, from the research, 50% of the teams lost. And of course, it's a joke. We didn't do the research. We're just saying that when you play, somebody wins and somebody loses. And if you judge your coaching success and process based on winning or losing, not on processes like generating amazing leaders and kids that give back to the sport by coaching and all these other things, but just wins and losses, you're going to be pretty bummed all the time because half the teams lose. That's a big number. It's not like 1 out of 10. It's 50% of the teams lose every time. So, like I say, I'm just thinking about the things that I wish I knew when I was a brand new coach, and I look at myself and go, gosh, I wish I could have coached myself now with what I know, on young John Kessel. Because young John Kessel did a lot of coaching the way he was coached, teaching the way he was taught. And if you do that, you're not getting better very fast. Instead of reaching out and listening to new people and thinking and changing and studying motor learning science and studying. And I just did a webinar last night for Puget Sound and Arizona the week before called Getting Better at Getting Better. And it's, your listeners can go type in Google improvement science. What is the science of improving things, showing that works not just in volleyball, but in everything? And, because let me share a few word phrases. Our talking today, and anytime I talk to a group, I want everybody to understand I'm going to give information and not criticism. So if I'm in Mexico and I'm on the court and I give somebody some info and they feel criticized, that's my fault. I don't want to criticize them. I want to give them information and let them choose. I want to give everybody as many facts as I know and not an opinion, because facts are principles you can ground yourself on, and opinions, everybody's got one. Everybody has an opinion. But we need to move our sport forward based on facts and science. And I think the phrase that I use the most, and a bunch of friends and I have a group even we talk about with this group, is called Ancora Imparo. And it's close to Spanish, but it was said by Michelangelo when he was 87 years old, painting on the Sistine Chapel. And he turned down to his helpers and he said, Ancora imparo. And it translates to still learning, still learning. And that's what I choose to do this morning, is still learn a little bit and do some research and go out onto the internet and challenge somebody or ask somebody to challenge me. And, I want to keep learning. Everybody that I know that's a great coach has that in them. They just keep really working hard on learning. So.
Yeah, and that's a phrase that Coach Shirley repeats a lot. I'm still learning. I'm a permanent learner.
Yeah. Because, and what Karch does better than I think a lot of coaches, not just because he's a national team coach, when you do things you've never done before, you make mistakes. If you're pushing a 13-year-old to be better, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. If you're pushing an Olympic player to be better, they're going to make mistakes. And the gym is like an exploratorium, to quote Bill Neville, a place where you explore and learn and you fail. That's what a gym is about, failure, not perfection, failing, doing things you've never done before. So Karch, better than I think than most coaches I see, he admits to his athletes, in front of his athletes, when he fails. If he's going to say, hey, I'm okay with you guys failing, he has to model, or he models well, that when he fails, he doesn't try to show, no, I'm smarter than all of you. I never make mistakes. I'm perfect. He's open with his failures and his mistakes. And, I think that's the mark of a really good learner, in my humble opinion. So
yes, and it's impressive that coming from you and from people like you and And like Coach saying this, it's amazing that how many coaches in other countries says, "Hey, I'm here, the boss. You will do whatever I say. I'm perfect coach. So do your drill." It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
So let's talk about why. Okay. The last thing that I will do in my Mexico clinic and even here tonight is talk about black and white or right or wrong. And that was young John Kessel. I was right and that was wrong. This is black and that is white. Now I understand that I get more impact with coaches to change if I simply give them examples and say, which is more effective? If you did this in a group of identical twins that love volleyball just as much, did what I'm doing, which do you think is going to be more effective? Which is going to be more efficient? Those are the words I use all the time. You can do that. But I think what I'm going to show you, or what we're talking about and why I do this, you'll see, yeah, that is more effective. And so why do you do the other thing? Because time is precious. You know, even the national team only has 3 hours or so a day, and a lot of high schools have 90 minutes a day. You know, time is precious. So I think that's this effective and efficient reach and reality. That's what I am focused on far more than on being right and you being wrong. Now, how does that wrap up to these coaches that say, do what I say? For me, the way that wraps up is based on the learning is better when you figure things out yourself. Let me back up for a second. Another big picture concept is this is a learning competition. Putting it into your brain so your brain can do things. It's not an athletic competition. If we have the same kids and I can learn faster, more effectively, more, quicker, and all those other words you can use, I'm probably going to beat you because we learn faster. So we're working on how do you learn faster? Young John Kessel did just that, told you what to do. That's called extrinsic coaching. The answers come from outside. That's a way to learn. It's not wrong. It's just that the most effectively learned, the most effectively remembered, the most effectively never comes out of your brain is when you figure it out yourself. The example I will use in Mexico in the clinic is, how did you learn to ride a bike? Now, nobody has ever died playing volleyball, to my knowledge. I don't mean a heart attack. Oh, I died. No, I mean the volleyball kills them. It doesn't happen. But learning to ride a bike in Mexico, sadly, children die. Not a ton, but kids die learning to ride a bike. Kids die playing baseball when the ball hits them in the chest and their heart stops and they die. So bike riding is way more dangerous than volleyball. So you know how to ride a bike, Alejandro?
Yes, I know. I remember well, very well.
All right. So let me ask a few questions to see how loved you were. Did your parents hire a bike riding coach?
No, never. They taught me.
Did they send you to bike riding summer camp?
No, never. I learned in the park.
Did they do bike riding drills? Did they
No.
drill you over and over and over? No.
I think I tried it 2 or 3 times, no more.
You ride the bike and then you fall, and you ride the bike and you get up and you fall and you ride the bike and then you ride the bike. That's intrinsic learning. I mean, maybe mom and dad are going, yay, just like a fan might. Or if you fall, are you okay? But that's not coaching. You're learning to ride the bike yourself. That's intrinsic learning. And it may now be 2 years since you've ridden a bike, Alejandro, but you'll get on a bike and you ride it. Because when you figure it out yourself, you remember it deeper, you learn it better, and you can problem solve new things better. What does that mean? It means that if you get in volleyball, you've figured these things out yourself and something new comes at you because you figured it out yourself, you can problem solve new things. You don't need to look at the bench, look at the bench, look at the bench to the coach for the answer. You can figure stuff out. And so young John Kessel told you what to do. And that is the worst learned. And I can't solve new things because I have to look to you for the answer all the time. Instead of the best learned is when you figure it out yourself. What does that mean? A coach's job is to do nothing? No. In volleyball, because we're creating a team and we've got systems and techniques and things that are the more, it's certainly more safer to hit a ball in front of you than hit a ball 2 feet behind you because you're going to hurt your shoulder. So a coach is there to guide your discovery. Videotape can guide your discovery. And that term, Alejandro, is that I used to say in the first coaching manuals I wrote for USA Volleyball, we called it Socratic coaching because Socrates would ask questions all the time of the people that he was teaching. Now we tend to use this word guided discovery because you don't have to ask questions all the time. There's other ways to guide discovery and still get them to come up with the answer. Not me, them. And when they figure the answer out, you say, hey, now you say, because they are thinking, now you say, go show me. Don't just talk about it. Yes, that's the right answer, but now go show me that you understand what it is we're working on. I'd also argue pretty strongly to anybody listening that the vast majority of mistakes made by young and even Olympic athletes are not errors of technique that we spend tons of time as coaches forcing into kids. They are errors of timing and judgment. They are I know what I should do, but volleyball goes so fast and it doesn't stop and I can't catch it and hold it and correct it. I have to rebound it off of body parts of mine. And when I hit, people, they don't understand. Most people don't know these facts. Here's a fact about spiking. When you hit a ball, your hand is on the volleyball for 1/100th of a second. After 100 spikes, you have touched the ball for 1 second. 100 spikes and you've touched the ball for 1 second. Well, that's not a very long time. And
it's a very short time.
Spiking is really hard because you want to hit it at full extension. You want to hit it here. But when I was a young coach, I often saw kids hit it here. And that's not good technique, is it? We want to hit it here, but I'm hitting it here.
Yes.
Young John Kessel, not knowing that what I know now, thought that was a technique mistake. And I would say, reach. I would say, extend. I would say, get on top of the ball. I would say, when I was really young, I'd say, don't drop your elbow. No, don't drop your elbow. When you drop your elbow, you hit it here. And then my mom says, you're pretty negative. And so I said, I'm going to be positive. Keep your elbow up. Keep your elbow up. Okay. And that was an improvement over don't drop your elbow. But all 5 of those things I said in the 1970s weren't the right solution. they weren't the most effective way to get them to hit it here. So the coach who knows why beats the coach who knows how. Okay? Why are they hitting it here? Why? Now the answer is simply that that's where the ball is. Because no athlete is going to reach at full extension and hit it off their elbow down here on their forearm and go, happy, I reached. No, what they're doing is they're putting their hand on the ball at that moment in time. So they look okay in front of their mom and dad and coaches and friends. They're not going to reach and go, ugh. So how do they get it up there? And the answer is swing sooner, or swing faster, or maybe do both. And if they do that, where will the ball be if they swing sooner?
Well, it will reach faster the other side of the net. I don't know.
The ball, they hit the ball here. Now they swing sooner. Is the ball still going to be here?
No, because it lasts
No.
only 1/100th of a second.
Yeah, no, it won't be here though. It will be higher. Because I'm swinging sooner, the ball will not have fallen as far.
Yeah, it's a question of gravity.
And timing and judgment. My timing, my right place at the right time is not right. How do I get it to be up there? You swing quicker, you swing sooner, and the ball will not have fallen as far. And then when you go to hit it for your 100th of a second, the ball will be up there. You might even swing too soon and whiff it and completely, go before it, you can reach it. Okay, that's too soon. This is too late, and this is too soon if you miss it.
Yes.
That's not technique. So I think I would challenge your listeners to simply check for understanding, we say, to see if they understand the technique without the ball. Because without the ball, I can show you what my brain has interpreted your version of what the technique should be. And if there's no ball, a spiker says, this is how you spike, well, then we've got a problem. They don't know the technique. But if without the ball, they say, well, this is what good spiking looks like, and they show reach, okay, I now know for the rest of my season with that kid, she knows that she's supposed to hit it at full extension. She knows it. When she doesn't, I ask her questions. Were you early, on time, or late? If I see early and she says late, we have to talk. If I see late and she says I was early, we need to talk. But if I say early and she says early, hey, go do another one. You know the answer. And if I say late and she says late, hey, go do another one. We agree. That's called a yes, yes, or a no, no. Where we have to talk so we're on the same page is when the athlete says, yes, that was good. And you're going, that was awful. Or the athlete says, oh, that was horrible. And you're going, that was awesome. Now you got to talk. You got to work through it. Why do you think that was good? And at the end, you come to a solution that you realize what she or he is thinking and why you think what you think. And then you talk together until you agree on something.
And John, and a lot of times the player thinks that it's a good hit because only it crossed the net or it touched the block. So yeah, I hit it right, well. And that's wrong.
That's the shaping where you can say, yeah, it passed the muster, it passed getting over the net. How could you make it better? How what would make that spike more difficult for the receivers, the diggers, to get? What would it take? And then she starts thinking, and you sit there and you've got, I mean, I've been doing volleyball for 60 years, so I've got a little bit of ideas in my head, but I love listening to kids think things through and then come up to the same answer. That's my job. Now, some parents go, why am I paying this guy money? Because all he does is ask questions. He doesn't know the answers. No, I know the answer. But as John Wooden brilliantly said years ago, you haven't taught them if they haven't learned. A lot of coaches will say, I taught it to them. You haven't taught them if they haven't learned it. That's your fault, not their fault.
Yeah, because just yelling is not teaching.
No. Generally speaking, it goes in one ear and out the other. And humans remember images better than words, and you have to do it to learn it. That's the biggest problem I see in our sport, Alejandro. We put up a net, we put 10 to 12 kids in practice, and we put out a ball. One kid is touching it and learning, and the other 11 are watching. Oh, well, you learn a lot by watching. Not a motor skill. You learn ideas, but the actual skill you must do. Well, how do you know that? Well, let me see if I can give you an example. Do you know how to drive a car? Do you have kids, like I did, that had to learn to drive a car? I did. Okay. They watched me drive the car for 16 years. And then they went to get their driver's license, and learn to drive. Did they know how to drive? No, because they haven't driven. They sat and watched. And you learn to drive by driving. You learn to play volleyball by touching volleyballs, playing volleyball, touching it. So I had a session last week with John Speraw. He was talking about how do I get more small-sided games and what examples can you do for the national team? Why? Why not play 6-on-6? Because he wants his players to get more reps. When you play 3-on-3 and another group is playing 3-on-3 and there's 2 balls on 2 courts, you're learning 100% faster than if you're just playing with 1 ball and 12 guys.
It's a
So I'm getting better.
It's a question just of probabilities, right? Or odds.
I don't know about probabilities so much as getting the reps. I learn by doing. You learn to ride the bike by riding the bike. How long would it take you to ride a bike if you went to the park, and there were 11 other people waiting to ride the same bike? It'd take a while to learn to ride the bike. You'd still ride the bike, but it would take you 11 times longer because when you learn to ride a bike, you get your own bike and you ride it. Well, you can't get your own ball and play volleyball by yourself and become great. You got to learn teammate things and stuff like that. But the minute you get to doubles, you're playing volleyball. Everything's making you a good player by playing doubles. And it's no accident that 2 of the greatest players I know, Karch Karai and Misty May, between the 2 of them, that's 6 Olympic gold medals. If you look at their growing up in volleyball, their development time when they were young in volleyball, they played doubles with their parents. So 2 things happened. 1, they touched a lot of balls. And if you're a good doubles player and you want to win, and you have Butch May and Misty May, the little girl, you'll probably serve Misty, Butch will set, and Misty will hit. So she gets 2 out of the 3 reps. So she's getting a lot of work versus if she had started playing like so many coaches do, 6-on-6, she would spend most of her time looking at other people. watch and not learning volleyball faster.
And why do you think, John? Because this is the key question. Why do you think a lot of coaches today are training 6-on-6? A lot. It's not. I think is the problem is not the lack of balls. They have 12 balls in the court.
No, it's the lack of net. Okay, so this is maybe one of my top 3 young John Kessel to now. Young John Kessel, teaching the way I was taught, took 30 minutes to set up the net. It wasn't easy. It was heavy. I had to get it out of the closet. It had cables. I would bleed trying to crank it. I have to find the crank. And finally, the net is up. And that net would sit there. And my players would practice on this side of the net and on that side of the net. And we wouldn't use the net. We would partner pass. We actually in the 70s would run for like 15 minutes, warming up. Not learning volleyball, we're running. And then we'd stretch. Not learning volleyball, we're stretching. I'm sorry, I don't think you need to do any of that to be able to serve, receive, or to set. And you get warm by doing those things. And then after you've done those things for a while, then you can spike and do other things. But you don't need to run around it. I mean, I remember talking, I was in Scotland about 5 years ago, maybe less. And I was working with the national team of Scotland. And I said, all right, show me your warm up, because I was interested to see what do they do to get ready before they play in cold, kind of damp Scotland. And the captain said, okay. And the players started running behind the captain. And they ran around the court. And then at half court, I stopped them and said, whoa, 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 whoa. Do Scottish men not know how to run? And they went, what? I said, do you not know how to run? Well, no, we know how to run. Then why aren't you playing volleyball right now? You have a net. You have 9 guys. The net's going to be gone in what? Another hour and 8 minutes. Why aren't you using the net? You can run anytime.
Yeah. As you have only the court for 1.5 hours, maybe.
Yeah. And that's how you get more effective and efficient than an opponent who runs and stretches, and you're playing one-on-one games, or you're playing short court over the net, or you're playing doubles or 2 versus 0, or you're doing what I do, because generally I only have 9 meters of net. And so I put a ribbon that looks like the top of the net. You can buy it for $8 on ribbonoutlet.com, and it's 50 meters long. And I run it from one end of the court, all over, the net's still up. I run it right over the top of the net, all over the other end of the court. And I get 40 some odd meters of net up. And on that same court space, we start playing one-on-one, one-on-one plus 1, and 2-on-2. That's our warm-up. And they, you can't use your right arm. You got to, next 2 minutes, you got to be left-handed, and you can't use your arms. You got to be like a football player. You got to head it. You got to kick it, because that's legal in volleyball. And you do all these things, and you're getting warm, but you're learning to put the ball over the net, because that's the biggest mistake young John Kessel did. Put up the net, and then he ignored the net. So in my slide that I'll use, I have a slide that says something to the effect of, last time I checked, every point ever scored starts with what skill? The answer is the serve. Every point ever scored in a match starts with a serve, except for a red card.
Yes.
So if you think you're training game-like the game of volleyball, how many of your games and drills start with a serve? And the answer is not enough. Because you must win the serve reception battle. But what did young John Kessel do? Oh, I wish I could talk to him 50 years ago and said, do these things instead of that, but I can't. Young John Kessel put up the net, and then for 10 minutes, we peppered and partner passed. This is what Dr. Richard Schmidt said to 40 Olympic programs at the US Olympic Training Center. Most of you practice so practice looks good and not to get better at performance. You practice so it looks good. When you partner pass, you can, once you have some skill, you can do 100 of those in a row. You could do 500 without a mistake in a row. So Alejandro comes to my gym, and he is the world's best partner passer. And I know that because after I stop training with you, you go home and you go against the wall and you go against the wall and you get even better at putting it back to where it came from. That's what you're learning to do, I think. That's all I know you're doing. It's got to go straight back to where it came from. That's what you're good at. So I bring you on my 13-ender team, the world's best partner passer, and my 13 starts serving bullets at you. How do you do on serve reception?
I think I will do it very bad.
Yeah, you're horrible because you can't. You don't know how to serve receive. You know how to see me pass a ball from below up to you and back, but you don't know how to serve receive. And if you do touch it, it goes straight back to where it came from. Well, that's a horrible pass. I want you to keep it on my side and put it over to the setter. But you don't know how to do that. You just know how to put it back to where it came from.
No, because volleyball is a sport of rebounds, and you never know where the ball is going.
Well, you hope you have an idea, but you're not certain because things happen very fast. Now, so in the same, this is what we call winning. In my mini volleyball book, there's a page called Winning the Serve Receive Battle. You want to win the serving serve receive battle. Yes, I want to spike. Yes, I want to block. I want to dig, set. But if you can't win the serve receive battle at the Olympics, you lose the medal, because we did in London. If you can't win the serve receive battle with your 13-year-olds, you lose. You might even just be so good at serving that you don't even have to serve receive at the youngest level, but not as you go up. So what do we know about serve reception? I and many of my fellow coaches have said this: the number one skill in volleyball is reading, anticipating, knowing what's happening before the ball comes over the net. That's the skill. In fact, we've asked our national team coaches for 20 years, would you rather have a player who is great at reading and not very good technically, or a player who is really good technically but can't read very well? And every national team coach wants the kid who can read, and they'll work on the technique later. So I asked Kerry Walsh, I've asked Karch years ago, I asked Mickey not that long ago, I've asked the liberos, Stacy Scora, and all our Olympic team liberos, how much of your success at serve reception, because they're pretty good at it, Karch, Misty, they're really good at serve receive, how much of your success happens before the ball comes over the net? And some people don't quite understand what I'm saying. I'm saying I hit it, it breaks the plane of the net. At that moment, how much of your ability to serve, receive has already happened to do it well? And they all have about the same answer. 80% if it's a floater, and 90% if it's a jump spin. What did I do as young John Kessel? I put up the net and I got good at the 10%. If that, I got bad at the 10% or the 20%. And now we start to serve short court serves to bigger, longer court serves, all practice long, because you got to win the serve receive battle as well as and you can win by serving bullets, and that's good too. But when we serve bullets at ourselves, heck, we're getting better at serve receiving because we're seeing bullets. It's not an easy serve, and we look bad in the beginning, but we're going to get better when the serves get easier. Nope. What did young John Kessel do? He used the wall. And I still use the wall, but he copied using the wall rather than thought about how to use the wall more effective and efficiently. So I'm going to share that right now. Young John Kessel had a wall and warmed up the arm and taught spiking against the wall. And they would hit the ball and it would bounce off the floor and rebound off the wall and come back up to me, and I hit it again and it would bounce off the floor and come up and I'd hit it again.
I did it a million times, right?
A million times. When you spike, the good mistake is to hit it out of bounds off the blocker's hands, or not to hit it out of bounds and over the net. The bad mistake is to hit it into the net. If Alejandro comes to my team after he did a million of those and we set him on my 13-year-old team, where is the world's best wall spiker going to hit the ball? And in my experience, it's under the net. Because the whole time you hit every ball, you learn how to hit it into the net. And what I'm telling your listeners to do, that I learned the hard way, is put up a stripe that's 2.43 meters or 2.2 whatever for the woman, put it up at the right height for a net, a piece of tape, duct tape, nothing expensive, just tape.
In the wall.
And you and I play doubles for ball control and for, as we get better, for winning against the wall. You serve the ball over the stripe. It bounces off the wall, and I serve receive it to near the net, near the wall. And I pass it to you like a doubles player does. You run to that pass and you set me. And then you back up to dig, because I'm going to hit the third ball where?
Above the tape.
Over the tape. And it's going to immediately bounce off the wall, and you're going to dig it, and I'm going to run to it, and I'm going to set you, and then you're going to turn around and crank it, and I'm going to dig you, and then you're going to set me, and then I'm going to hit. If you become the world's best at that, then you step on the court, you pass balls off at the net, the wall, you set balls off the net, the wall, and then you hit the third ball where?
The wall.
Over the net.
Above the tape, yes.
Yeah, above the tape. And when you do it in the gym with a net, you hit the ball over the net, because that's what you've learned to do, how to hit it over a thing that's 7'4 1/4. It's 2.21 or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we want to get good at.
If I do a million of not jumping, but just doing this over the wall, I'm not improving.
If you use the wall a million times off of a set, that's going to make you go into a game situation with the habits that are much better. They're called good mistakes. Good mistakes versus bad. Pepper, when you and I, you know what is, you understand the word pepper? I mean, that's the defensive thing where we hit and dig to each other.
Yes.
So where does a great pepper partner dig the ball? Back to the spiker. That's what you're supposed to do. If you don't dig it, you say, sorry, And if I don't hit it right at you, you say, sorry. I say to you, sorry, sorry. But in the game, I never want to hit at you. And in the game, Alejandro, you never want to dig back to the person that spikes at you. Never.
Never.
What am I learning in Pepper? How to dig it back to the spiker. That's what I'm learning to do. And everybody goes, oh, it's ball control. No, it's really bad volleyball.
Yes,
You're
of
playing
course.
tennis. You're digging back to the spiker. So the perfect dig is probably a meter off the net to the setter. That would be a fantastic dig.
Yes, of course.
The bad dig goes where? And in my gym, the bad dig goes over the net.
To the other side of the court, yeah.
And the good mistake, the good error, not perfect, but the good dig mistake goes where?
2 meters from the net.
Up. Anything up is good in my gym. Get it up and the setter will run to it. Yes, as I get better, I can dig things, especially if they're slower, to my setter. But if I taught Alejandro numero due, numero dos, not Italian, Spanish. I taught your twin brother to dig balls back to the spiker in Pepper, and I taught you to dig every ball that ever got hit at you straight up and never back to the spiker. And then I put the two twins, Alejandro 1 and 2, on the court in front of the national team coach. And every time the ball got spiked at your brother, twin brother, he dug it back over the net. And every time, no matter how hard and how far, every time you touched the ball, it went straight up. Who do I want on my team? You know, it's easy. Number one, the one that keeps it on our side so that we get the chance to spike against them, not the one that keeps sending it back to the other team so they can kill us again. But
Yes,
what do I learn in?
And a lot of coaches says, "Hey, it's a good dig because you don't let the ball touch the floor." No, it's not good because the job of a defender is to give the ball to the setter.
If we had an Olympic team that every time someone spiked at them, dug it straight up and never to the setter, we would win probably every gold medal. Now that includes the fact that the ball's not hitting the floor, you know, that you're reading it so well that you get to it and it goes up. Doesn't go to the center, but it goes up. And when it goes up, you got 5 other setters who will set the ball towards the net, and then your teammate will kill it and you win the point and you get a lead. Because when you dig, set, hit, you get ahead in rally scoring. When you just go back and forth and nobody gets a dig, set, hit, they serve and kill. You serve to them and they kill it. They serve to you and you kill it. Once you get a transition kill, once you can dig, set, kill it, then you start to get points on the scoreboard that gets you ahead in rally scoring. There's only 4 ways to get a point in rally scoring. A service ace. You know what? I want to get good at serving then. A stuff block. You know, my 13-year-olds don't need to stuff block a whole lot, so we don't work on that yet. Opponent error. I can't practice for that. That's their job. So serving is so far the only thing I'm really working on. But then the next important thing to be able to get a lead in rally scoring is to be able to dig, set, and kill balls. Young John Kessel, Alejandro, did a lot of digging drills. I would hit at them. As I got better, I realized I don't play the match. So I got to get out of the drill, and they would hit at each other, and they would, they'd start playing and they'd spike balls. When we get good at dig, set, kill, transition killing, that's what I got to get good at. What young John Kessel did bad was they just did digging. They didn't then set it and then attempt to kill it, even if it wasn't very good. We just did digging and nobody set and killed it. That was a mistake. That is not as effective learning as now. Every time a ball gets dug, we set it and we try and kill it. That's what I got to get good at. That's how I win matches.
Yes, of course. Especially in the rally scoring system, it's crucial that.
Absolutely. The games are, that's how you get a lead. That's the only, opponent area you can't practice. Stuff block I don't worry about. So we get really mean at serving because we can practice that a lot. And then we get really good at digging and setting it and killing it. And we get really good at serve receiving, setting and killing it, because we're young John Kessel. Here's a mistake I made for 20 years, not even young. I would bowl it with, I'd say, and they'd go serve. And I would have 12 kids. So 6 would serve on one side and 6 would serve on the other side. And they served for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Young John Kessel would serve for 10 minutes. I don't do that anymore, but I serve a lot shorter periods more often because you got to concentrate. And after 5 minutes of serving, you're not concentrating. When you serve in a game, you serve maybe 3 times and then you lose the serve and then you do 12 rotations, not 6, 12 rotations. And then you go back and you serve maybe 3 more balls, and then you have to wait 12 more rotations. So that's how I practice serving. I serve short periods a lot through practice so that they're fresh and thinking about it. Not young John Kessel would say, okay, we got 10 minutes left. Everybody serve and see how many you can do in the next 10 minutes. They're like going, they're bored. They're talking about their boyfriend. They're not thinking about serving because they're serving for 10 minutes. Never happens in a match.
And and little effective, right? It's not effective doing that.
No, it's not as effective. It's not as efficient. So what happened in the final aha moment for me in some ways is I figure I served 500,000 balls in my first 10 or 12 years. Every time I blow a whistle and say serve, and they'd serve. Over time, 500,000 balls were served over the net, landing in or out. How many of those balls got serve received?
A few, just a few.
None.
None
Got serve received. They were doing serving. I wasted 500,000 balls of reading. Now, does that mean that we only serve and everybody else serve receives? No. We're working on serving. But I make sure every time we serve now, one kid, it's always different, serve receives one side and does as many as they can. They don't get them all. And you don't have to wait and serve, then serve. No, you can serve 2 balls at once. The receiver looks at one and reads that one and lets the other ball fly by him or whatever. But don't waste all those valuable balls coming over the net to be read and not serve receive. Somebody should serve receive, one person on each side of the court. I didn't do it for 20 years. I wasted all those chances to read because I was doing a serving drill, not a serve receive drill. Now I, do a lot more serve and serve receive anyway, because you got to get good at serve and serve receive.
Yes, of course. John, please tell us a little more about those, I think are great words that we as volleyball people has to grow the game through loving the game, to insert the love for the game in the kids. I think it's crucial. The kid the kid has to decide to go back to another practice the next day.
Yeah. It's just I've worked with the NHL, National Hockey League. I've worked with the Major League Baseball teams. I've worked with NFL teams. I've worked with NBA teams. And at that level, they want to have fun still. If you're 13, absolutely you want to have fun. So what is not fun? Getting screamed and yelled at by the coach when you are not making a mistake on purpose, but they treat you like you're an idiot or like you made the mistake on purpose. Standing in line, waiting to do something, that's not fun. In Mexico and in every country of the 70 countries I've taught in, when I ask what game or drill, when you say no more, do the kids say, no, 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 we want to keep doing it? And invariably around the world, it is some variation of playing 3 against 3, rey del cancha, some sort of king or queen of the court, some sort of winners stay on, quick 1-point games. They want you to keep playing that. They want to keep playing. They don't want to stop. The coach who knows why beats the coach who knows how. Why do they not want to stop? ¿Por qué? What do you think?
Well, I think that kids want, if they are going to play volleyball, they want to touch the ball. They want to be in the court. They want to make some drills playing with the ball, I think.
So all those things you said happen in Queen of the Court. And a couple other things happen that are really valuable. The Olympic gold medal is won by the team that stays on, doesn't get knocked off. Queen of the Court, King of the Court is won by the team that stays on, doesn't get knocked off. It's not, you want to learn, you want to teach your kids that winners stay on. And Queen of the Court rewards that. Plus they're playing 3-on-3. So instead of half the team watching, because only 3 can touch it on a team of 6, probably everybody touches the ball once. Not every time, because you might pass it to me and I set you back and the other player doesn't touch it, but you touch it twice. And the next time it comes over, I serve, receive, and I get to hit, whatever. In 6-on-6, I've gone for 10 minutes and never touched the ball.
It's very possible.
That's not fun. That's not fun. So to give them a love of the game, they need to play. I mean, I have a slide that I use that says volleyball math. 4 kids, 1 ball, what happens? In football, in baseball, in anything. They play. 4 kids, 1 ball, and an adult, what happens? They drill. No, they need to play more. The national teams of the United States do about 15 drills. They don't have to learn new drills. They have to learn new scoring. You don't get a point on this one unless you do this. If you do this 2 times, then you get a point. You have to learn new, but the drill is still the game. It's going over the net. They're touching the ball. It may be 2 against 2, it may be 3 against 3, but it's still the same thing. They're playing volleyball. They just changed the scoring. I remember talking to a couple of the other groups. I remember when I was a young coach, I was so excited to buy Bob Bratton's 300 plus volleyball drill book. Oh, I was
300.
like, couldn't wait for it. 300. And then about 2 years later, he put out another book. And this is in the 70s, so you can only buy books, right? There's no internet or anything. He put out a second book called 400 plus more volleyball drills. And I was like, oh, I got to get that book. I wish I could say to that young John Kessel, no, you don't drill volleyball, you play volleyball. Most of the things you're doing in that drill is for practice to look good. It's not going to make you play better volleyball. I can remember when a kid couldn't get the tip, I would then stand in front of the net and I would spike balls at that girl. And the rest of the girls would cheer. And I would throw balls. I would fling it right and fling it left. And they would hustle and I'm flinging every ball. I wish I had those kids back because I taught them nothing about reading a tip, which is why I was mad because they couldn't get the tip. There is zero time in the game of volleyball that it comes thrown from near the net off to the corner. That never happens. You don't need to read that. You need to read the way the blocker came in or the hitter comes in. You need to read, does she jump aggressively or does she already have her hands up and she hasn't even jumped? That's what you got to read. And it comes from over the net. It doesn't come from in front of the net. But I stood there and ran drill after drill, hitting balls. And I was getting, Alejandro, most of the repetitions. Players would touch one, 11 others would watch, but I got every other hit. I got half the reps. That's stupid. I don't play volleyball.
Yeah.
Why am I doing all the...
And what do you think about coaches that stands on a bench and in front of the net, they say to the players, hey, please arm a 2 or 3 block, and he hits and hits and hits the ball 100 times, 200 times.
What I say is that you are practicing so you feel good about practice. You're not teaching them how to perform as a blocker. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I did as a young coach was I used a box and I hit on the box. No spiker will ever spike at you on a box. To be a good blocker, to be able to be at the right place at the right time is all based on how high the hitter jumps, where the hitter runs to, how low or high the set is. And I have to learn to jump at different time and places all the time. But when I'm on a box, I look good. Or whatever, you know, I mean, that's called practicing so practice looks good, not learning how to perform as a blocker. But I did it in the 70s.
Well,
I don't do it anymore.
45 years ago, but this is 2020.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, yeah, because I see a lot of coaches doing that. You know, a lot of coaches that I have seen says, "Hey, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, so watch me too. I can hit hard the ball, so I can yell loud. So I'm the only one guy who knows volleyball. You don't know any volleyball. I'm the teacher, so I think that's a real shame."
Well, it's just not as effective learning. And a lot of those coaches make it not fun because they make the players feel dumb instead of building trust and teaching them. And then the kids quit volleyball.
Yes, and a lot of coaches also says, "Hey, as a punish, so we are in the court, there's the net, but we are not using the net. We are doing floor exercises, or we are running around the court because it's a punish for you because you don't pay attention to me." I think it's plain stupid.
If they are not paying attention to you, that's your fault, not their fault. Well, we've been at it for an hour and 20 minutes. Are you okay? I mean,
Oh,
you have any...
well, how are you of time, John?
Well, I need to get back outside to shut the valley down. I've been, working up valley, and so I gotta bring the razor in and bring the truck in and things like that. But okay, on
Okay,
time.
perfect.
I can do another 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. I have one question here. Says from Chalin Valdez from Sinaloa, Mexico. I totally agree with him. The more you touch, the more you dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Octavio Medina from Mexico, but he's living right now in Seattle, Washington. He says, I believe the priority for volleyball coaches has to be to motivate players to practice volleyball, our passion sport. In case they decide to move to other sport, we know we contribute in their sport development as an athlete and human being. Okay.
So let me comment on that one for a second. They've done some research in football, soccer, in the academies. And in the academies, they pick out supposedly really passionate players, and they pick out kids that are good talent at 8, 10, 12 years old. They teach them nutrition. They teach them weight training. They teach them how to study. They teach them a lot of football. And they did a study for almost 20 years to find out what was the difference between kids that came to the academy and made pro teams, played all the way up to the Premier League or in the World Cup, and kids who came and trained but never made the pros. And the number one difference was that the kids who made the pro team practiced on average, I think 45 minutes a day, played street soccer. And I wouldn't use the word practice. I'd use the word play. They played street soccer with no coach and not a perfect field, that bounce it off the tire, hit it off the curb, the telephone pole is out of bounds or whatever, They played street soccer, street volleyball. And those were the kids that made the pros because everything else was equal. But what they got was a chance to play imperfect conditions and problem solve and not be coached and be creative and not play 9-on-9 or whatever it is, 11-on-11, but play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 or whatever. Again, this 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 1-on-1 plus one, we just do too much 6-on-6. And so it's neat to see that Spera is working on more 3-on-3 because they're gonna get better before Tokyo, for sure.
Yes.
All right, what was the next one?
John, one of my favorite quotes from John Kessel is that it is prohibitive to play volleyball without a net.
Yeah. I've got a sign I can send you and you could send out to friends, but it's in the back of the mini volleyball book. And, for those of you in Mexico or Italy or whatever, yeah, my book, Mini Volleyball, is free on the USAV website, but some really good friends translated it into Spanish, and my Italian coaching friends, Maurizio Jacobi, they translated it into Italian. And so you can get the book in Spanish PDF. And so in the back of that book is that sign that says, use of this court, using this court without using the net is illegal, and it says prohibited. Use of the court without use of the net is prohibited. You can't use this court without using the net. I believe that. You get better faster because you can do all the other things that the listeners know. You can do all these other things all over the world in a driveway or on a grass field because there's no net, or what, you can do all that stuff. But when you got a net, use it.
Yes,
and you'll get better faster.
Okay, the last one, John, the last one. How do you think the libero has changed the offensive systems, considering the libero was created as a defensive player.
Well, I think the first big picture thing you should ask, because in America, we have this really weird thing called we substitute a ton. So you may not know, but in high school, they sub up to 18 times, or maybe even 24 now or something. I mean, it's like they only play front row and then they get subbed out in the back row. Then they come back in and whereas the rest of you, including you guys in Mexico, you're playing by rules of substitution that you can only go in and out once and only 3 players can do that total, or you can put 5 in and they have to stay in and only, because you only have 1 sub left, you can do all sorts of things, but you have a total of 6 subs. In the college, I think it's 15 or 18, and in high school, it's even more. So what happens in international school is it used to be 6 players who played almost everything, and they had to be good all the way around. By adding a libero, now 7 people get to play every match. And that's a little bit more, I think that's good. More kids are playing more, So yes, the answer is, because serve reception and digging are the role, and you get better at serve reception and digging when all you do is that, and you don't spend much time hitting, and you don't spend any time blocking, and internationally, you don't spend any time serving, the level of serve reception and the level of serve, the digging goes up a little. And it kind of goes up on both sides. The variance is still there. Let me jump into that word. Humans are not machines. They're not made out of metal, and they can do things exactly the same. When you hammer, when you take a hammer, you've got a nail, and you hammer it 100 times, then the scientists look at the head of the nail and they see that there's a bell curve. Yeah, you hit it 100 times, but you didn't hit 100 times in the middle. It's shaped like a bell, and you hit a few on the edge and more and more and more and more and more towards the middle, both ways. That's called variance, and that's because you're a human. We are not perfect. Why I'm bringing it up here at the end of this session is because as a young coach, I wasn't aware of the importance and variance in how younger players or less skilled and even Olympians need to be aware of it. So, my son plays professionally for Berlin Recycling in Germany. And he was MVP one Sunday, and then he was on Tuesday, you're going to play with no fans. This is in March, right? And then on Wednesday, we're canceling the league. And on Thursday, our Trump president thing guy, he canceled. So he says EU travel flights are going to be canceled for people coming over from EU. And then on Friday, he turns in his car keys for his car that they give him. And on Saturday, he turns in his apartment that they give him. And on Sunday, he flies home. So he went from MVP in the Bundesliga, and their record was 20-0. They hadn't lost. Record setting, they hadn't lost. To he's home at the house in Colorado, and he's quarantining so I don't get sick. And then he's working the lodge. I've been working with him in a jump serve. We've got an AstroTurf field up here. He's working on speeding up his jump serve, doing new things with his jump serve, because that's something you can do by yourself a lot. And when I was a young coach, I would say clear the net. But if you focus on the net, half the balls go into the net and the other half go over the net, because you're a human. If you say hit the line, half the balls go outside the line and half the balls go inside the line. If you say set it to the antenna, too many balls go past the antenna. We literally move a marker a meter inside the antenna, because everybody who sets, including the setters, isn't perfect. And you want to keep the ball inside the antenna so that the variance isn't to push it to the antenna, it's to push it so that it stays inside the antenna. And when you dig and when you serve receive, if you put your setter right at the net, that's what young John Kessel did. Here was the net and here was the setter right on the net. Then if I aim at the setter as my target, half the balls go where? The other side of the net, tight to the net, because humans are humans. And so I coach a lot of 13s, and their target for the setter is 3 meters back, because their variance is really big. And as you get to be an Olympian, your variance narrows, but you don't put a setter right on the net unless you've got a 6'10" setter that can jump up and intercept all the ones that are going over the net. And I don't have that. I don't have that myself. So we just start a little way more off the net. And as you get better, you get closer to the net, but you never get on the net, because to put yourself on the net means half the balls go over the net on the serve receive if they're aiming at you, which I hope they're doing. So just be aware that because humans have variance, they aren't perfect. And it comes to mind in the Rio Games, I grabbed a couple charts of some of the Olympic teams. The Hawkeye system let them show the, hey Jack, the Hawkeye system let them show the curve of the serve receive because of where the setter took it. And it was awesome. About 10 of the balls went right to the setter in serve receive, but then it went out on a bell curve where the setter was touching it, including all the way to right sideline and all the way to the left sideline. That's where they serve receive to. That's where he had to run to set the second ball with. Why? Because we're humans. I've said enough.
Okay. Thanks a lot, John. It has been a pleasure. I hope to see you again here in Volley Talks. Thanks a lot. And please say hi to. Please say hi. If people want to
reach me, it's now John_Kessel@msn.com. It's not John at USA Volleyball anymore. So it's John_Kessel@msn.com.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hope to see you here again in the future. Please say hi to Cody, Mac, and Lily.
I will, and we'll see you in about a year.
Yes, almost 30 months from here.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, John. See you.
Later. Bye.